What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Mike with Sean from the Bookies podcast. We are live here on YouTube and Twitch for episode 119. Like always, we are brought to you by Treasure Island Comics in Fremont, California. Today, July 7th, 2021 is New Comic Book Day. Go out there, get your stack, start your pull list with Alex. He can get your books old and new any way you want them, curbside, mailed, or you can walk in with or without a mask. But Sean, Mark is still in Mexico doing his thing, so, salute to him. We'll see him next week. But we still have 3 people on this show this week. And 3 people, also, it's his 3rd time on this show promoting a brand new book. We already read it. It's an amazing book. We're going to let him get into it. But Frank Martin, how are you, sir? All the way from the East Coast, from New York. It's great to have you on again.
East Side?
Grand introduction.
What's up, guys?
Shoot, nothing much. We're just living the dream, First thing I want to get into was, we haven't talked to you since October. So with what we talked about, we've kind of went through a whole pandemic together too. We talked to you at the beginning, during the middle in October, and now we've come to the point where people are, especially our 2 states, New York and California, who are the most, 2 of the most conservative, strict states when came to the beginning of the pandemic, and now people are being vaccinated. People are getting to somewhat normal lives. How has your life changed since October, sir?
New York is very weird right now because I think the state is like 80% vaccinated. It's like really high. It's compared to like Arkansas, which is like 30% vaccinated. So everything is really getting back to normal. But then I see on the news places like Australia are going into lockdown. So It's like all these places in April and in May of last year when New York was going crazy and everywhere else was tightening up. It's become the reverse. So we're all vaccinated. Everybody's getting back to normal. Things are seem as normal as they can be. And I look on the news and other places are kind of really being affected that aren't getting vaccinated as fast. So it's been this little twist that's been kind of strange to watch.
Yeah.
And with the comic book scene, you being obviously a comic book writer, things are getting better. Have things, I guess, opened up for you? Or has it been kind of like, COVID, it was what it kind of was, kind of kept everyone indoors, maybe more thoughts in your head to write new books. Things are opening up again. Do you see, I guess, new opportunities now starting to open up? Or has it kind of been still a little stagnant because it's still slowly opening up?
I think on the publishing side of things, publishers are starting to open up their slate because everything was backed up because nobody was really putting out books. And now they're starting to open up as far as accepting new submissions. I think Comic-Cons are opening up more. Everybody's talking about New York Comic-Con because they just sent out Artist Alley acceptance letters and stuff like that. Started approving pro badges and such. I'm not going to be going this year, but I see people going and they're hopeful and optimistic. San Diego Comic-Con is another story. I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah, I think how it's always in the summertime. I think they have something of an outdoor event or something going on. I believe in November. I think it's Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird time.
Yeah, I looked online and the one that we did what was it, Sean? The Podcast Palooza, where we won this contest where we did like a half an hour thing on
Silicon Valley
podcast
or Comic-Con,
so downtown San Jose, they're doing it again late August. So and there's all of these applications for if you want to be on the floor in the main hall or if you just want to be part of like the press. Small, I think it's just like the artists, writers, and it's like a small little thing where it's cheaper. You get like a small booth. That's probably where we would be because it's like $4,000 to get yourself your own island booth on the main hall. So yeah, no thanks. But we're thinking about going back to cons, especially the smaller ones where there's not going to be as many people there. All these ones that are going to be at the fairgrounds and stuff like that. But yeah, it's crazy. It's going to be pretty crazy to see how many people they actually let in too. So you spend all that money, which was the same price as last year. It'll be the same price next year, but this year there won't be half as many people maybe as there was 2 years ago. So I'm not sure.
So 2020 was going to be my big convention year because I haven't been doing conventions mainly because it's just tough for me. My wife works. We got 3 kids. It's tough getting away and organizing that. And I was like, 2020, that's going to be my year. I did one in January, and I had one for April, and then it went away. So the one I had scheduled in April, they pushed it back to Labor Day, which was like September, and then obviously said that's not happening. So then they deferred it to this April, and like the week before it was supposed to happen, they said, obviously we're not doing it, but they didn't reschedule it. They just kind of indefinitely postponed it. So they said, we're not refunding anybody. We'll just let you know when we're going to have it, which is kind of strange. But I'm looking forward to it whenever that may be. And because I got a bunch of books and I want to sell them.
Yeah, they delayed that convention as many times as they delayed Black Widow. That's crazy.
That's coming out Friday, so that's
I know.
I'm in the dilemma. I don't know if I want to pay for it to watch it. I'm kind of like, I want to, but I don't want to because it's going to be free eventually. They're going to put it on there, so I'm going to end up buying it. I don't know who I'm kidding. So.
Yeah, I know, right? I told my wife, I was like, let's go to the movie, and she's like, yeah, maybe. But either way, we're watching it this weekend.
We're
like,
definitely
regardless if
gonna
we're going to go to the theater or not.
I mean, I like the theater, but it's so I could either go with my wife on like a date, but then we have to get a babysitter, or I could take my kids, but then I gotta buy like 3 tickets, and then the parking. So by the time it's all said and done, it's like $150 affair.
God damn!
As opposed to sitting on my couch and watching for $30.
Yeah.
We've been fortunate to obviously interview a whole bunch of different comic book writers, and it's true that there's been kind of the common theme of the negative impact that COVID had. But for you, I mean, seeing what you're saying, you had a lot of books that, you had come to mind. You probably wrote, obviously, the new book we had the fortunate opportunity to see. What would you say probably was the biggest, like, setback? Now you're kind of looking back at when COVID was at its ultimate peak.
Biggest setback was just having the kids home. It threw schedules for a loop, When everything's normal, you have your schedule, you get kids ready, you send them off, and then you go do your thing, and then you pick them up, and then you kind of sit. It made sense, everything was organized. And once everything is canceled, it's just chaos at home. And my kids, at least my oldest, didn't do well with remote learning. So it's like I can't do everything around the house because I have to make sure this damn kid when they sent him to his educational YouTube video, he doesn't look at all the Minecraft recommendations that are along the side. Like, the first place you could send a kid to do online learning is YouTube. So yeah, but it was just, I was writing the same amount, but the times I would write would be different because it was just, you never knew when you were going to have a free moment. But my wife was home too because she wasn't working. So it was kind of like, it was a little bit of a help, but it was weird.
Yeah.
It was definitely weird.
So let's get into let's do it. Let's get into it. Polar Paradox. So the Kickstarter for Polar Paradox absolutely killed. I think it was over double the amount of money that you wanted to raise. Around double.
I did not expect to have a very good last day, as good of a last day as we did. So
right.
I was going for 2,800. We wound it up at like 57.
Nice.
And we topped out at over 300 backers, so that was kind of a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, amazing job. So let's get into let's get into the actual like the book, because you sent us the 2 issues. It's an amazing story. I don't know if I can speak for Sean or for Mark, but for me personally, the stuff that we've read from you over the last 2 years, I think it's my favorite story. Just the mystery, the sci-fi, the little bit of action that there was, and of course the epilogue was like, okay, Here comes round 2, like, what is this? This is all part of some big conspiracy, that's what I'm thinking about. So, what was your, I guess, what made you want to write something like this? It was something so different than what we've read in the past.
So I met Antonio, who's my co-creator, at a local con. I was tabling, and he was just walking around. He said, I'm an artist. And we exchanged emails, and we were chatting back and forth to see if we could hook up on the project. And I said, what do you want to do? He said, sci-fi. So I threw out some pitches to him, and one of them was Polar Paradox. And this idea essentially came from National Geographic. I'm a huge National Geographic guy. I read it every single month. And a couple of years ago, there was a story about divers who dove in an uncharted waters off the coast of Antarctica. And they took a whole bunch of pictures. And I'm like, this is a perfect setting for a story, for a comic book story. So essentially just did the what if. What if these scientists went missing down there? And then that's kind of how the story developed. And he loved it. And he immediately went into the suits and the submarines and the creatures down there, coming up with designs. And the story just kind of, it was a natural progression of the story growth, developing it. It was just, we didn't really fight over much. We didn't feel like we struggled a lot developing the plot. So it all came together pretty fluidly.
Nice.
Can I just guess what he's saying?
The funny thing about being muted when you're on an interview. But no. What Mike said, I definitely agree. He just said in terms of this being easily the best read. We've read some of your books. We loved them, but this one was definitely top of the food chain. I loved it so much. And that's not just because you're on, brother. It was awesome. I love the colors in it. I love the epilogue. I love just the dialogue between the characters. So I guess in a story like this, you have, your three kind of members of the rescue crew. And like that dialogue between the three of them, the dynamics is, I don't know, it's so creative to me. How does that come to mind? Do you just kind of how do you basically create personalities for each one of these different characters?
I tried to do the team tropes there. You have the leader guy, and then you have the emotional heart of the team, and then you have the sarcastic goofball. I played into the stereotypes, and it's fun when you just have characters and you throw them in a scene, and that's why I write dialogue first. A lot of people, they want to plot everything out. For me, when you have characters that are in a scene and you're working it out, the dialogue just flows, and then you worry about breaking it up into panels later. You just let the scene play out, let the characters talk amongst themselves in a way, and it came pretty natural as far as their banter and what needed to be done.
The first couple pages just grab you, It's, someone's on the radio, like, Omar, I'm down here. It's been 3 hours. You're only supposed to go down there for 1. I need to pull you back up. Let's go. And you're like, no, I can't. This is unbelievable. And then, and then you don't know what happens to, oh my God, I forgot his name, Javier. You don't know, is he really going insane? Is he have that cabin fever sort of thing? And, I just love the action too, because I didn't think besides the creatures, attacking the rescuer's ship, I didn't think there was going to be much else besides that. But the harpoon going into the ceiling, it collapsing, and them having to just run, and you think that what's his name, Wu or what, he's dead, and then you hear him at the very end of the story. It's it's crazy, and then of course the mind blowing of them just going down this little tunnel. It probably felt like he was going maybe 100 yards, and then they end up in the North Pole. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It was so. You guys said the last time we talked was the Macabre Motel, and that kind of I kind of call that my "Are You Afraid of the Dark" ending. It ends on a whoa, and then just kind of ends.
Yeah.
So the original script of the Polar Paradox did not have that epilogue. It kind of had a similar Macabre Motel ending where it's just kind of what happened, and that was going to be it. And I didn't really like it for this story. I wanted more solid ground, so I needed a follow-up. And so I was talking to Antonio about, I put in that epilogue, which would segue into the follow-up. And I said, do you want to do a sequel? And he said, I don't know, maybe, I'm not sure. And then we did the first campaign for part 1 and was successful. And he said, sure, we'll do the sequel. So I'm excited that epilogue will eventually answer some questions as we do another part 2 that we're working on right now, and hopefully get a launch for that next year.
Nice. Oh, we can't wait for that one.
You know what? You actually just answered my next question, because there has to be a part 2 after that part 1. I'm with Mike on it. There's so many okay, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? So part 2, we are super, super excited for. So I guess speaking to that, I guess jumping on the whole part 2, you're going to create a part 2 for something. I guess not how long is the process, but I guess for you as a comic book writer, how hard is it for you to kind of okay, I got to make sure it's not just A plus B equals C, just so basic. Like, how do you basically come up with your thoughts for a part 2 to make sure it kind of reaches the standard of a part 1?
So for this one, it's a little easier than normal because it's the way the polar paradox came about was a little bit formulaic. You have two parts to it. You have the first part, which is essentially the adventure side of things, where you're in the water and they're coming up with the animals, and it's the polar side of things. And the second part was the paradox, where we get into the mystery and get a little sci-fi-ish. And I essentially used that formula to develop a sequel. So it's going to be the same formula where the first part is going to be adventure, second part sci-fi. It's just going to take place in a different locale with a different mystery. So, but it follows the same story. So it's called Equator's End. Polar Paradox Equator's End is going to be the title. And instead of deep sea diving in Antarctica, they're going to be cave diving in the Philippines. So it's
nice,
different kind of National Geographic adventure story.
Nice. Well, like I said before, congrats on the success for the Kickstarter. But now you have another campaign running for the same book. This is the first time you've done it. So explain this Indiegogo.
All right, so yeah, two big crowdfunding platforms are Kickstarter and Indiegogo. I've always been Kickstarter, but people like to run an Indiegogo or for the same campaign, or they do an Indiegogo first and then a Kickstarter. And the thought behind that is sometimes people just like to stay on one platform. Sometimes somebody might miss it and they want to back it, so they might run a subsequent campaign. I've never done one before. This is my first one. I launched it today, and it's just essentially like a little post-campaign so that people can grab the book if they missed it the first time around, or if they're not on Kickstarter and exposed to it, they can grab it. So some of the stuff is not on there. For instance, some of the variant covers are Kickstarter exclusive. I have some of the bigger tiers I've kind of pulled back on, so it's a little bit of a contained campaign, but it's something new, something different, and I'll see how it goes and whether or not I want to do it for a next book.
Is Indiegogo the same as Kickstarter, to where you have to reach a certain goal, or it just or it's like an all or nothing thing?
It's different. So you have the choice. You could either have a fixed goal, meaning it's all or nothing, or a flexible goal, which means if you don't reach the goal, you still get everything.
Okay.
And Indiegogo is a little bit different. I'm not as familiar with it as I am with Kickstarter. I know it's a little bit more fluid with its add-on features, as far as people selecting extra perks. They call them perks, not like pledges or rewards. And also another big difference is they charge your card right away. It's as opposed to Kickstarter, which waits until the campaign is over and then they try to charge your card.
Okay.
So process is a little different.
Well, shoot, count me in as an individual who jumped on Indiegogo, because I did miss that. Like I told you before we started recording, I missed the opportunity to jump on the Kickstarter, but I'm definitely going to get a hard copy of that book. I wish I could tilt my whole computer screen, but I have Modern Godhood up there in my little, my mural,
Shrine.
My shrine of all my graded copies and all this stuff that we've gotten from, small-time publishers and independent writers. So that's awesome. It's cool too, because we like having these relationships with, obviously it's going to take years and years and followers and whatever the hell to have any kind of relationship with someone like Tom King or Scott Snyder or Brian Michael Bendis, but it's really fun, and I think it's more rewarding to have the relationships with yourself and Jason Douglas and other guys like that, because it's just more, I feel that we can get along better because you're just more down to earth, and it's more relatable to me and you. I've heard that comic book writers in general are kind of like that, they're more down to earth. They're not like, Hollywood's, movie stars, but I don't know, like doing this podcast so far for like 2.5 years, I really, really enjoy the relationships that we've crafted out of, from you and other guys,
Writing novels and comics allows me to see both worlds. And although there's gatekeeping in both, where it's very difficult to rise the ladders and get a bit better exposure, I find that comic writers and just the comic community in general, the pros and the people that are a lot successful are much more approachable than people in the novel community. You know, you go up to a big time author, it's very difficult to get them to open up and to talk and to sit down. They're always in a rush. They always got something else to do. Whereas comic creators, I've reached out to a bunch of big name guys, and they'll chat with you. They'll exchange emails, they'll exchange messages, even had coffee with a couple of them. So it's definitely a lot more accessible, because I think they feel the struggle a lot more than a writer that broke it big, or I should say a novelist that broke it big. You know, comic cons are a way to level the playing field a little bit, where you can approach somebody like Tom King and chat about your career, and he has no problem opening up with it. So it's definitely a friendly community.
Yeah.
Well, post-COVID, as a lot of authors are definitely having their books come out, you, not just as a writer, but you as a reader, is there anything that you're reading right now, or something that you've read like, oh damn, that was pretty damn good, maybe during COVID or post-COVID per se?
You know what? Marvel did that thing on their Unlimited app where they just put tons of books for free on there.
Mm-hmm.
So during like really strict lockdown, like a year ago, I would blow through a whole bunch of stuff that I've never read. Like, I never read the classic Amazing Spider-Man runs, like 1 through 12, the original with all the first appearances.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of cool to do that. I'm a big library guy. I love taking books out of the library. So I just got done with Brian Vaughan. I love his stuff. I just read his entire Paper Girls series. I think Amazon just picked it up for a show, so it was cool.
Oh, nice.
Blowing that too, and seeing what they're going to do with that. But yeah, there was no shortage of stuff to read during that time.
Yeah. So shifting gears, we have your book. We have comic books, and then we have, of course, like everyone knows, the sports side. And something small happened. It's not that big of a deal. I think we can talk about it for like 30 seconds and, just move on. But,
we'll give them 35 seconds.
But we talked to you mid-October last year, and that's the middle of the NFL season, and your damn Tampa Bay Buccaneers win the freaking Super Bowl. You damn cheaters, getting Tom Brady. And then, not to mention, you guys return all 22 starters for this upcoming season. So the next time we talk to you, or the next 2 times, I think we may have a back-to-back champ. I don't know.
It was funny because when we talked in October, it looked like they were going to have a rough season. I think I called Tom Brady a dumb pirate because he...
he called
like
the
the
timeout.
final drive of the
Sparked
game.
a flame under him.
Yeah, well, it was the final drive of the game, and he didn't realize it was 4th down. He thought it was 3rd down,
Yeah.
and
That was a Chicago game. I remember that.
it's like, and then they caught their stride, and then they kept on winning, and they were in the Super Bowl in Tampa Bay.
Yeah. Just leave it to Tom. Leave it to Tom to be the first person to ever do that. Host the Super Bowl. But yeah, like it's pretty weird. A week or 2 after you were on, it was like they hit their stride, and we kept saying, like, watch out, they're looking dangerous. Like, they're hitting that. It's that point in the season where some of the hotter teams that you would say in the beginning of the season, no, not them. But the hotter team definitely went there. They might not have been the best team overall the whole season, but wow, the last 2 months of the season, they were unstoppable.
They definitely hit their stride to the point where Tom Brady does that thing where he just calls hike, he takes one step back and just launches the ball, and they connect perfectly. They were missing that timing at the beginning of the season, so they must have worked really hard in between the weeks to get that down. The Super Bowl wasn't even close. Everybody thought it was going to be a lot closer than it was.
Well, between, I guess, getting that connection with the players and to what Mike just said, getting all 22 starters back, I guess, is it kind of fair to say that you guys are going to be probably repeating, in your opinion? What's the expectation?
You know what? It's been a long time waiting for a Bucks win, so I'm not counting my chickens on it.
Well, not too long. You guys won in the 2000s, so,
Yeah. I wanted them to grab Julian Edelman too. That would have been kind of a little bit nice of a trifecta, but he said he is not interested. So
he's not pulling a Gronk where he's like, I'm retiring, and then oh, hey Tom, oh hey, you're down in Florida, okay, cool.
I love that I don't know. They came out with this like 2 days after the Super Bowl. They had that AT&T commercial. Did you see it with him and Gronk?
When they're on the phone, is that when they're on the phone?
When they're on the phone, and Gronk just retired, and Tom Brady's like, "What should I do?" And the phone's cutting out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's telling him to go to the beach, and then instead he signs with the Bucks, and he's like, "What?"
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good commercial. That was really funny.
I thought that was hilarious.
But anything else? You watching any NBA finals? I just got a little ping on my phone that the Tampa Bay Lightning have just won the Stanley Cup. So I would assume that you're not a Tampa Bay Lightning fan. But any baseball, any NBA finals? It's kind of a weird NBA finals this year. You would think that the ratings would be down because it's like really small markets in Phoenix and Milwaukee. But yeah, what else in sports have you been watching if you have the time?
I mean, I haven't been watching a whole lot of stuff. I'm a Yankees fan, so I get Yankees up. I don't watch the games, but I get updates on my phone about how they're doing, which is kind of – it's weird. They're going on losing streaks, but then they've turned like 3 triple plays this season. So it's
against the A's.
One to win the game against the A's.
One to end the game against the A's a couple weeks ago.
So it's been kind of a weird season for the Yankees. And then I saw this one play. It was on the news. Like, the news never does anything with baseball unless it's something wild, where you probably know better than I do. Where the guy, he hit the ground ball he ran to first, and it was a wild throw, and the first baseman tried to tag him, and he started running back towards home. Did you see this play?
Oh, yeah. Did it? Yes, I did see it. Or it was kind of like just a doof play, right?
I think Javi Baez, was that who it was?
Maybe.
I think so.
So it was he ran back home, and the first baseman, like an idiot, instead of stepping on the bag, decides to chase after him, and there's a runner on second, so he's going home. And then he throws it to home. He's safe, that runner. Of course, then there's nobody covering first, so the catcher tries to throw it to the second baseman. He goes into the outfield, and the guy the ground ball ends up in second. And my son's playing Little League, and he's getting kind of discouraged because it's boring. He's still little, so it's not really like very engaging. And I see even every once in a while the major leaguers look like little leaguers, you know?
Yep.
Bad news bears out there.
Yeah.
It was one of those plays where it's just you're scratching your head like, how much do you get paid to do this? Like.
Exactly. But just to finish it out, kind of going back to like the entertainment side, anything you've been watching? I mean, because the Disney Plus, I don't have a lot of time to finish. Like me and Sean watch some of the CW shows, like the Flash and Black Lightning and stuff like that. But I have caught up with all of the Disney Plus Marvel shows. That's like me and my wife have like a thing where every week we watch, WandaVision, Falcon Winter Soldier, and now we're on Loki. Obviously didn't watch today's new episode, but anything like that that you've been watching on TV or movies?
I watch a lot of TV. I love the DVR because it records everything.
Oh, yeah.
You can kind of
Best
watch
thing
it.
ever.
So yeah, I think the Marvel shows are definitely better than the CW shows, but I watch them all too.
Mm-hmm.
You just mentioned Black Lightning. I watched the finale of that. That was like an awful finale.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I have like a list of my shows and like where I am in the shows. So I'm like in May as far as the episodes. I'm like super far behind, but like I haven't even started Legends of Tomorrow. That's how far behind I am. I think that first episode of the season was like May 2nd. So I'm so far behind.
It's also a weird season because we're in July and I was just watching a new episode of The Flash that aired yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like shows are supposed to be over now. You're not supposed to be watching. It's supposed to be in the summer. All the summer shows are coming on, but everything's pushed back, so it's kind of bizarre.
Yeah, and then I see if you go on like those websites like IMDb and you go to your shows, you go to like the next season like The Flash, and I think episode 1's still slated for like the fall. The next season's not pushed back, so yeah, I have some damn shows to watch. I gotta catch up.
I've been pleasantly surprised that Superman and Lois has been a really good show.
That's very good show. I agree. I like that show.
Good. I've watched the first 4 or 5 episodes, thoroughly enjoying that one.
I've never been a Superman guy. Like I watch Superman stuff, I enjoy it, I read but that's been the first show that everyone says who's your favorite Superman, but I think Tyler Hoechlin's been my favorite Superman because he feels super relatable to me. I don't know. Henry Cavill and and Brandon Routh, I never really connected with them in Superman, but I think he's doing an amazing
I
job.
think me and Sean's Superman is Tom Welling, Smallville.
I
that's
only watched the first season of Smallville, so I'm a Smallville rookie. I gotta get into it. It's daunting because there's like 12 seasons, so I'm like I watch it, but I don't.
Yeah, it's really good because it started in 2001, and that's when we were freshmen in high school, and so was he. So we like literally grew up with the show. So like right when it started, I started watching it. That's probably my Superman right now. And apparently he's making an animated series. I don't know if he's retelling the stories of Smallville or continuing the stories, but Michael Rosenbaum's going to be Lex. So hopefully we get that in the next year or two.
That should be interesting too. I have a buddy who's a big Superman fan, and he loves Smallville too. And he said he was very disappointed that they did the Crisis crossover, that he was in it. They said he did his character wrong there, that they shouldn't have included him. It didn't make much sense. So.
Yeah, it was just to show him. Yeah, it was
exactly.
Pointless.
He wasn't really Superman. He was all Clark. You felt like he had given up being Superman, fully, for sure. I will say this though. CW has been kind of but the HBO Max shows thoroughly enjoy. Love Doom Patrol. Love Titans. I love the one and only season of Swamp Thing, and even the Harley Quinn cartoons. Pretty funny. I've watched like the first 3/4 of the first season. That one's pretty good too.
I watched them all. I love them all too. Swamp Thing I particularly liked. Harley Quinn was hilarious. My kids would come in. They're like, "Oh, Daddy, you're watching a cartoon." I'm like, "You need to
get out of here." Yeah.
You need to leave. So,
yeah.
But yeah, they've been doing. But I feel like the network itself is struggling, like HBO Max. Like they canceled Swamp Thing. That was a terrible decision. They canceled Harley Quinn. But I'm looking forward to the new seasons of Doom Patrol and Titans.
Yeah, I mean Swamp Thing had that whole accounting mishap where they didn't have $13 million that they did have, and that was even before it got to HBO Max. So that was like a whole DC universe. That was a whole debacle.
There was shenanigans going on there. I think there was like some executive at Warner Brothers probably didn't like the way the show was produced or didn't like the direction they were going in. So they can't, even though it became a hit. Yeah. So.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. Frank Martin, thank you so much for jumping on the podcast. Please give everyone who's listening right now like where they can find you on social media, and please give either a short synopsis or something that we missed as far as your new great story, Polar Paradox.
Oh, I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Frank the Writer. That's me. FrankTheWriter.com is my website, and obviously if you go to Indiegogo and search Polar Paradox, it will come up. The story is pretty simple. In the near future, a team of research scientists goes missing off the coast of Antarctica, and a trio of rescue divers have to go in after them, and it turns into a complete adventure mystery to the center of the Earth. So it's a fun kind of like Lost in Space, Fantastic Four adventure vibe. So you like that? Check it out.
All right. Well, hope to have you on soon for an interview for part 2 of Polar Paradox, which is going to be called the Equator's End. So can't wait for that. But me and Sean will be right back with part 2 of the podcast. But Frank Martin, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you soon.
Thanks, Frank.
Thanks for having me, guys.